Hi everyone, my name's Jen. I'm an author and a book reviewer, and this is one of my most requested videos. I haven't done a video like this in, I want to say, about 10 years. I am a children's author. I used to be a children's bookseller. I am now a parent. So you've been asking me if I will do a video recommending some children's books. Now, do not click away if you do not have children in your life, either your own or children you would like to buy for, because quite a few of these books are books that I bought myself, because these are some of the most beautiful books, I was going to say that I own, that I've ever seen. And children's books really are for everyone. So I think, you know, you could be watching this video for a whole host of reasons. It is getting into winter season, so I thought it would be handy to make this video now in case you want to gift anything to other people or to yourself. As I said, I am a children's author, so I'll briefly mention my books before I dive into all the other ones. I have about 100 books to talk to you about today, so I'm not going to dwell on each individual one for a huge amount of time, but just enough so that you can gauge whether or not it's a book that you would like to pick up. So my books for children, there are several of them. I've written 14 in total, but picture book wise, I've written 3, which are in a series called the Franklin and Luna series. The first one is called Franklin's Flying Bookshop. It's illustrated, as they all are, by the wonderful Katie Harnett. This is about a dragon called Franklin who loves books. He wants to share them with as many people as he can, but all the locals are scared of him because he's a dragon. And then he meets a young girl called Luna who isn't scared of dragons because she's read all about them in books. And together they decide to create a bookshop on Franklin's back and take books and reading to all the local people. Who doesn't love a travelling bookshop? I love a travelling bookshop. So that's the first one. The second one is called Franklin and Luna Go to the Moon. I bet you can't guess what they do in this book. And then this one is called Franklin and Luna and the Book of Fairy Tales. And in this one, they get sucked into a book of fairy tales and they have to try and get out again. Katie's illustrations are just wonderful. So those are my books. Age ranging, I don't tend to do with books. I get why that's helpful, but I do think it's about each individual child and what they're looking to get out of a book. If you like age ranging, my publisher says my books are for roughly 3 to 7 year olds. Can read to them when they're younger, read them themselves when they're a bit older, but I think it stretches either side of that as well. Let's begin then with the other books, and let's start with board books. With age ranging, again, publishers tend to say that board books are for 1 to 3 year olds, but my daughter is 7 months now and she's been a fan of books since she was born. Like, we've been reading to her since she was born, and obviously just at different stages and different ages she's getting different things out of different books. So initially it was just the pictures. She loved looking at the pictures. Then she liked that we are saying things to her even if she can't understand what those things are. At this stage she's enjoying the cadences, the rhymes, the rhythm. She loves turning the pages herself. She loves the voices, the sounds. There's just so many different things that you can get out of even just the same book over different ages. So I'm not going to state ages in this, and that's something you can go and research yourself if you find that kind of thing helpful. But I will start with board books, which are obviously for younger people in the sense that they are more robust, can stand to be chewed, and also they are easier to hold if you are also holding a young baby. That's, I think, primarily the good thing about them, is that it allows for more stability. I want to start with classics, ones that have stood the test of time, rather than old books that should probably be left in the year that they were published. And then I'm going to move into, sorry, I keep turning around because I'm reaching for some things behind me. Then I'm going to move into more contemporary things that are being published now. Some of my favourites, things that she loves, things that she will get to when she's a bit older, and books that I bought for myself and really adore. So let us begin. The first one I'm going to mention is obviously one of the classics because that's where we're starting. This is The Tiger Who Came to Tea by Judith Carle. I don't think I actually read this myself when I was younger, but I sold it a lot when I was a bookseller. And this is about a young girl called Sophie who is having tea with her mum when there's a knock at the door and a tiger says, "Can I come in for tea?" He eats all the cake, he drinks all the drink, and then when their dad comes home from work, they have to go to a local cafe to have food because there's nothing left in the house. In fact, he drank all the water in the taps, so Sophie couldn't even have a bath. I not only adore the story in this, but I also just love the fashion. I want everybody's outfits. I think that Sophie's mum's outfit is amazing, and Sophie's tights are also pretty fabulous. I think young kids really like this because it's silly, but also young kids love it because of the high contrast with the illustrations and the white background. Then Jill Murphy, I was a huge fan of her when I was a kid. She also does the large family, which I haven't got here, but the ones that were my favourites and that we have now are the Bear family. There are 3 in this series. We have the 3rd one, but we don't love that one as much. So I want to shout out the first 2. This is Peace at Last, and this is Whatever Next. This is about a family with Mr. Bear, Mrs. Bear and Baby Bear. And in Peace at Last, Mr. Bear is trying to get to sleep, but he can't. So he tries to sleep in all the different rooms in the house, in the garden, in the car, and just various things keep disturbing him. For about a month, I read this to our daughter without the book, just off by heart, before every nap and every bedtime. And she thought it was really funny. So if that's a recommendation, there you go. And then this is Whatever Next, which I think was my favourite when I was a kid. And this is about Baby Bear wanting to go to the moon. He finds a rocket, which is a cardboard box, under the stairs. He finds a helmet, which is a colander, under the sink. And he sets off through the chimney out into the sky, where he meets an owl. And they go to the moon, and he actually finds that the moon is quite boring because there's nothing there, and he decides to come home for bath and bedtime. Again, I think the high contrast is really good for little ones. Then Mr. M's favourite book when he was a kid is this one. I never read this when I was young, but again, we sold lots of copies as a bookseller. It's a New Zealand classic. I actually thought it was Scottish. I don't know if that's just because I worked in a Scottish bookshop and we were selling lots of them, but Harry Maclary, I just thought was Scottish. No, New Zealand. If you have also made that mistake, let me enlighten you. This is all about dogs, and our daughter loves dogs, and we enjoy noticing dogs when we're out that look like the dogs in here, because this is just a list of dogs. So we've got Harry Maclary from Donaldson's Dairy, Muffin Maclay like a bundle of hay, Bottomley Potts covered in spots. So if we ever see a Dalmatian, it's Bottomley Potts covered in spots. Schnitzel von Krumm with a very low tum is the dachshund in this. Where is Schnitzel von Krumm? He is here. It's just very fun and a bit tongue twistery. The only thing about this, which I am not a fan of, and some of you may find this ridiculous, but if you've been around and watched my disfigurement and villainy videos, you will understand. There is a cat in this series called Scarface Claw, who is, I wouldn't necessarily say the bad guy, but scares the dogs. I could do without that, but that's about it. So I really enjoy the rhyming in this. And then we also have the rest of the series in paperback, which we have read to her. You can't get them in board book form, so we don't tend to reach for them as often, but I would say that the original is the best. Then we have a lot of Eric Carle books. I would say the most famous Eric Carle book is The Very Hungry Caterpillar, which is about teaching kids, I suppose, the days of the week, because the hungry caterpillar eats different things on different days and then becomes a huge butterfly at the end. And this was the one that our daughter loved when she was very little. But I would say some of her favourites now are The Very Busy Spider. So this is about a spider who is very busy building her web, and different animals come and talk to her, and the web is tactile, you can touch it, and it is it raised or is it lower? Anyway, it's a different texture to the rest of the page, so they can touch the web, and it gets bigger and bigger as the book progresses until at the end, I don't think you can see, can you see? But it's a finished web and you can touch it. So she really likes that. And then also there is The Very Lonely Firefly, which is about a lonely firefly who is flying through the night and trying to find other fireflies, keeps thinking that they've found one, but it turns out to be a different light, like a lamplight or the eyes of a cat in the reflection of a car light. And then at the end, they do find a group of fireflies, and wait for it. Oh, there's a button at the back which you turn on. It feels a bit anticlimactic actually, but in the dark at night, I assure you it is magical when these lights come on and all the fireflies are flickering their lights. That's lovely. Then there are some others that are more, I would say, poetic. So we've got brown bear, what do you see? You can sing this one if you are so inclined. I will spare you my singing voice, but brown bear, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me. Red bird, what do you see? I see a yellow duck looking at me. And we've got a blue horse, a green frog, all about colours, that one. Then we've got one that is about sounds. So polar bear, what do you hear? And then another one, baby bear, what do you hear? Is more about different adjectives that aren't just colours. So we've got flying squirrel, for instance. They're just a lot of fun, and I think the bright colours and illustrations are what make them. Okay, let's move into the other books. Before that, a quick word from a very kind sponsor of this video, which is Serious Readers. Is it the night time? It is the night time. It is the grand time of 9 p.m. and I am still awake, which I am quite impressed by. I'm going to curl up for 20 minutes and read. In fact, I'm about to start Eliza Clark's new short story collection, which I'm very excited about. This one is not for little people. No. I think this one is just for the grown-ups. But I wanted to give a shout out to Serious Readers, who I have worked with for the past 4 years, because I think that what they do is wonderful. And one of the wonderful things they do is right behind me here. They produce reading lights, and this is one of their reading lights. This is a high definition light. This is a floor light. You can adjust the height. You can tilt it to whatever angle you want. You can adjust the brightness. They have invented something called daylight wavelength technology, which mimics daylight as closely as possible and means that it produces the best environment possible for you to be reading when the light is, when it's dark, when the light is not there. There is a light on in the other corner of the room, but to be honest, I think the camera's making it look brighter in here than it actually is. So as the evenings are getting darker quicker, as the winter draws in, which makes me smile because I love that time, this is particularly useful. They have given me a code, which I will put in the description box down below, but also on the screen here. The code is Gen24, and if you use that code, it gets you £100 off a high definition light, one of these, and also free UK delivery as well. They're a small company, all their lights are made in the UK, and as I said, I really rate them, and they're lovely people to work for, which is an added bonus. So thank you very much to them for sponsoring this video. We're nearly at the end of the classics before we move into the more contemporary things. Peepo was a favourite when I was young and still really enjoy it. I think she'll love this one even more when she's older, because each page has lots of things in it that you can notice and point out and discuss. This is about a baby sitting in various chairs and looking at what he can see. And I think the reason I like this is because it's so old school, but also the house in it is exactly like my grand's house. It's got a courtyard outside and an outdoor loo and stuff like that. It just feels very much like my grand's house. Love that one. Rod Campbell is another author who stood the test of time. I think we're all familiar with Dear Zoo, are we not? Though I have to correct the grammar in it. I really do. It really annoys me at the beginning. I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet. What? No, I wrote to the zoo to ask them to send me a pet, and they sent me an elephant. He was too big. I sent him back. Obviously, flaps. We love that. Then another two that are a favourite by Rod Campbell. We've got Noisy Farm, which is also a flat book. It's about Sam, a dog on a farm, woof woof, who can hear lots of different sounds like a chugging noise, chugga chugga chugga. What's that? It's tractor. That one is very much a favourite at the moment, as is It's Mine, which has a pop-up surprise, this one. Slightly terrifying. She doesn't find it scary. I mean, I think that's quite scary myself. But in this one, you're spying animals in the background of each spread that become the foreground of the next spread, and you just have all of these layers. And again, you can make different noises for different animals. I think you can get, press a button, it makes a sound versions of these books, all of them, but no thank you. I would rather make the sounds myself, because then they stop. So we don't have those. And then finally, I think this is the last one in the classics category before moving on to the contemporary. We've got Michael Rosen's We're Going on a Bear Hunt, illustrated by Helen Oxenbury. If I could go back in time, I would have got the board book version of this, but alas, I did not. This is about a family who are going on a bear hunt. They're going to catch a big one. It's a beautiful day. They're not scared. And then on each spread, they come across a different obstacle, like a forest, uh-oh, a big dark forest. We can't go over it, we can't go under it, uh-oh, we're gonna have to go through it. Stumble, trip, stumble, trip, stumble, trip. And it has a lot of onomatopoeia in. It alternates between being black and white spreads and then colour spreads. And then when they do find the bear, they kind of wish they hadn't found the bear. It's not as ominous as that sounds, actually. So yes, those are the classic ones that I would particularly recommend. Then, sticking with the board books for a moment, let's talk about some favourites. So my daughter's first favourite book ever when she was teeny tiny is this one, which is At the Park, illustrations by Sally Garland. And I would say this is because she is her mother's daughter, and this is about autumn, and it turns out now that it is autumn that she is very excited by autumn as well. So this is about two kids who go to Granny's, and they're going to go to the park with a picnic, and it has some flaps, and then out of the window you can see it is a beautiful autumn day outside, and they go to the park, and they go through the gates, to the trees, to the playground, and then they feed the ducks, and it's just very autumnal, very cozy, very lovely. Then this was a favourite of hers at some point, I can't remember when, but it's Babies Laugh at Peekaboo. So it's just to teach them peekaboo. Babies love peekaboo, it makes everyone laugh. Shall we see how to play? First we hide, then we wait, then we say, oh, peekaboo. It's a bit stiff now. Peekaboo. And then each one is like that. There is bunny, there is bear, but where is baby? Peekaboo. I see bananas, I see spoons, but where is baby? Peekaboo. And then at the very end, the final peekaboo is, you know, a mirror, because babies love nothing better than looking at themselves. This is the book that she picked on her first trip to a bookshop, which is If I Had an Octopus by Gabby Dorney and Alex Barrow. It's illustrated by Alex, Gabby wrote it. And I really love this series. This is published by Thames and Hudson, who also publish my books. And their first one was called If I Had a Dinosaur, which came out a little bit after Franklin. I think this is my favourite in the series. It is published like this, as a hardback and then also in paperback, but you can get them in board book form as well, which is wonderful. So they have these wonderful rhymes in it, just said wonderful many times. I really want a clever pet, a pet with many charms, the sort of pet with talents and a large amount of arms. Oh, if I had an octopus, we'd ripple down the street, my octopus on tentacles and me upon my feet. So this young girl just imagining what it would be like to have all of these different animal pets as friends. And yeah, this one is my favourite. I also really enjoy If I Had a Vampire Bat, which is perfect for this time of year because it's got some Halloween spreads inside. There is a haunted mansion somewhere in here, which is my favourite. Oh yeah, this here. It's so beautiful. And then recently they sent me this, which is If I Had a Dragon, which is their latest one, and I was very moved because in this book, which I did not know was a thing that was happening, let me find it. The dragon is reading lots of different books all about dragons, and on the bookshelf we have got a copy of Franklin. I was very moved. But yeah, this is a great series, would highly recommend. And clearly my daughter has great taste because, as I said, she picked out the first one herself. Then another one of her favourites, and this was brilliant for bedtime. I was aware of Yuval's books before these, but then Thames and Hudson sent me these earlier this year because they also publish Yuval, and they are younger versions of some of his big books, which I will show you in a second. So this is Little Turtles, a Book of the Blue. So Yuval has, where are they actually? Where are they? Okay, they're on the floor under a whole other, oh no, they're not under too many books. Let me grab them. So I already had these. This is the Big Book of Beasts. So it's basically an encyclopedia type book, the kind of thing I would have adored when I was young. I used to have a huge book which was an atlas which had different animals from different countries. This is similar, except it's split into just pages of facts about animals. So let me show you an example. So this is a page all about bats. Then we have a page all about hyenas. They are beautifully illustrated and they just have lots of, you know, fun things that you can learn. Honey badgers. Who doesn't love a honey badger? So there is the Big Book of Beasts. There is the Big Book of Blooms, which I think I've left downstairs, but let me insert the cover here and let me insert a spread. You can learn lots of different things about flowers. We've got the Big Book of Birds. Mr. M has been enjoying looking at this, and even though he knows a lot about animals because he was obsessed as a child with learning everything about animals, he's still been learning things from these books. Flamingos in there. And we have the Big Book, there's so many that I have here, the Big Book of Bugs and the Big Book of the Blue. So these ones are just a lot of fun, but then this Little Turtles Book of the Blue is a smaller version of this one. It's very different in that it's not full of facts at all. It just references different creatures. This was the book that sent her to sleep, I want to say, for 2 months. And I mean that in a nice way, not that it's boring, but that it made her fall asleep. We would lie down and we'd read it, and then, yeah, she'd be off for a nap. So Little Turtle swims away from the shore. The sun is shining and it's time for an adventure. Paddle, 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 paddle. I don't know why I'm looking at the words because I do know this book off by heart. So we've got octopuses in here, we've got sharks, and then this is her favourite spread here. Little Turtle watches the tiny krill. They turn the sea pink as the whale sails past. Whoosh, whoosh. She loves this whale. And then the last one is a very calming night one. Little Turtle rests as a jellyfish gently drift. The water is deep and dark here. Rest well. Good night. So this is amazing. And then there is an insect version of this, which is a small version of the Book of Bugs, the Little Snail's Book of Bugs. And at the end, again, it has, it finishes with a butterfly and then one with glowworms at the end. So those ones are just delightful as well. This one is one she picked out in a bookshop called There's a Tiger in the Garden by Lizzie Stewart. I'm a big fan of Lizzie's work. I'm sure that this has been inspired by the tiger who came to tea in a lovely, lovely way. It's about a girl called Nora who's very bored at her grandma's, and her grandma says, "How can you be bored when there's a garden outside with man-eating plants and a polar bear and a tiger?" And she says, "There are none of those things outside, don't be ridiculous." But then she goes outside and she finds what her grandma has been telling her all about, including a tiger. This book is all about celebrating imagination and it is lovely. This next one was a gift from one of my editors, Lisa, lovely Lisa at Hachette. She sent me a selection of Australian picture books, and this is one of them. This is actually a classic in Australia. It's just not something that's well known here. It's called Where is the Green Sheep? And I think it's coming out here in board book form next year, in case that's relevant to anybody. But it's by Mem Fox and Judy Horacek. And this is by the same author as a book I absolutely detest, which is illustrated by Helen Oxenbury, called 10 Little Fingers and 10 Little Toes. Ableist nonsense, just on repeat. Everybody knows that every little baby has 10 little fingers and 10 little toes. No, they don't, Mem Fox. Stop it. I have been haunted by that book forever. Anyway, this contains none of that. This is a lovely rhyming book about sheep. I think my favourite one is, here is the near sheep and here is the far sheep. Here is the moon sheep and here is the star sheep. But where is the green sheep? Yeah, I really enjoy this one. It's very, very good. Now, Alice Melvin. I am a huge, huge fan. She has a few books that were published a little while ago, but more recently she's been published by Thames and Hudson, and I bought these for a friend's baby a while ago and also bought copies for myself because they're gorgeous. So the first one is called Mouse's Wood, and it is the coziest, loveliest, most autumnal. I mean, it's about all year round, but I think it celebrates autumn in the most wonderful way. The words are by someone called William Snow. I don't know why that's not on the cover, but the illustrations are by Alice Melvin. And this is one of those books that I think everybody should just have for themselves. It is a look at a wood and all the animals that live there, and you get shown around by a mouse. So for instance, in February, I wrap up warm against the winter's chill. I stroll among the morning mist, the wood is wet and still. And then you see who lives here. We have a red squirrel. And so every month there is a different spread which celebrates different parts of the year. I mean, come on. This is Badger, one of my favourites. Afternoons in August, armed with pots and spades and marrows, me and Badger gather up the carrots and the marrows. There we go. Though Mr. M always says it should be Badger and I, which is true. Here we go. Here's October's. October comes and dusk descends. The bluster strips the trees. We chase and chatter, speed and scatter, kicking up the leaves. I mean, stop it. I mean, don't stop it. It's brilliant. And then the sequel to that one is called Mouse on the River, and Mouse goes on a journey to visit his friend, I would argue his boyfriend, who lives by the coast. He, let me find you my favourite one, goes along the canal, then down the river to the sea. And here is one here. We've got the town lock, can you see? And you fold this down so you can lower the lock. And then here we have a cafe run by a hedgehog. Just absolutely glorious. And then there is a third one coming out, and it's coming out in March next year, I think it's called Mouse on the Sea or something like that. Very excited. And then this is one of her other ones, which is very different stylistically, but I still really like it. It's Grandma's House, and it's just about a girl who goes to her grandma's house, and she is looking for her. And each page you can peer through. I don't know if you can see. Sorry, it's very hard to show some of these. You can peer through, like the doors, and you can glimpse the next page, and then you've got fold outs here showing extra bits of rooms. Like, clearly she loves showing houses. An attic. I'm not doing the best job of showing you this, but I think it's lovely. And eventually she finds her grandma in the garden, but I think the subtext implication of this is that she's been looking for her grandma in her grandma's house, but her grandma is no longer alive. But I don't think that young kids would pick up on that. That's just what you think of as an adult, but it could be a good transition, I suppose, to talk to kids about losing a grandparent. But anyway, it's a very beautiful book. Then these I purchased this year. Dim Sum Palace, I think, came out just after she was born, or maybe just a bit before. I bought it for myself. I didn't buy it for her initially, but we have read it to her. This is by X Fang, and I've mentioned it on this channel before because it's one of my favourite books so far this year, along with Mouse. Mouse's River, Mouse on the River. This is inspired by Maurice Sendak's The Night Kitchen, and it's about a girl called Liddy who dreams about going to Dim Sum Palace. And in her dream, it's not a restaurant, it is a palace. When she gets there, she gets turned into a dumpling, and it's the right amount of wholesome and cozy, but also slightly scary, like all the best kids books are. Then I had to buy a North American copy of this because it's not out over here yet. Maybe it will be at some point, but it's called We Are Definitely Human, also by X Fang, and it is about 3 definitely human creatures, aliens who crash land. Their car has broken down, which is their UFO, and Mr. Lee and his wife decide that they're going to help them try and fix it. But they say that they're from Europe, and Mr. Lee says, okay, well, what do you all do in Europe? I make business, said the short one. I play sports ball, said the tall one. I wear hat, said the one wearing the hat. It is very funny. It is about community and helping out other people, but mostly it's just very amusing. It kind of gave me the same feeling that John Classen gives me. And actually, I don't have any of his books here yet, but we will be purchasing those for her in the future. Then I wanted to give a shout out to a Jackie Morris book. I think this is the last book to show you of ones that we have introduced her to, and I think the reason that she likes this is because it is bigger than, well, I mean, quite a few of these have been bigger than her over the months, but this one is huge. It is called Tell Me a Dragon, and it's just, oh gosh, it's so big, it's going to be so hard to show you. It's a series of spreads showing different dragons and their companions, introducing them to you. So my dragon is Snaggletooth, fierce and brave. My dragon is as big as a village, jade-winged, amber-eyed, with a tail as long as a river. Yeah, it's just lovely, lovely, lovely. So there we go. Right, I'm gonna have to grab another pile of books from the floor. Hold please. Okay, so these are books that I've mostly purchased myself. I would say 90% of the books that I'm talking about today are books I bought myself. Anything that is a review copy will be marked as such in the description box. But these are ones that I've owned for, in some cases, years, and can be enjoyed by little people further down the line. But I did buy them primarily for me, just to read and enjoy, and also I guess as research as a children's book author. Anyway, so I want to give a shout out to Beatrice Alemania. I have 3 of her books here, and I think my favourite is this one here, which is Never Not Ever, which is a bat. It's about a bat called Pascaline, which is just a great name, and Pascaline doesn't want to go to school. Never, not ever, thank you very much. And she shouts so loudly that the force of it shrinks her parents so that they're tiny in the size of peanuts, and that means she can put them in her pocket and take them to school with her so she's not alone, and she thinks that that will be amazing, but it turns out her parents just do lots of slightly naughty things and she gets the blame for it, and after that she decides maybe it's fine just to go to school on her own. This would be great for any kid you know who's starting school and is maybe a little bit nervous about it. And the other ones of hers I have here, we've got On a Do Nothing Magical Day. Something that she does a lot in her books is have not even like muted backgrounds necessarily, but slightly muted, and then this pop of fluorescent colour. So this is just a book about a child who is having fun in the rain outside in this amazing raincoat. And then we have got The Marvellous Fluffy Squishy Itty Bitty, which is about Edie, who wants to get her mum a present, and she wants to get her a fluffy, squishy, itty bitty, but none of the shopkeepers know what one of those is, and she can't really describe it either, so she's struggling to find this perfect present. It's really sweet. I will show you the inside. There we go. There's a double page spread there. Then we have Petra. This is Petra by Mariana Coppo. Petra thinks that she's a really important, big, powerful rock, and then one day she discovers that actually she's just a pebble and she has an existential crisis. Something quite Studio Ghibli about it. The spreads are quite simple but very endearing. I don't go anywhere. Everyone comes to me. I am strong. I am a fearsome, fearless, mighty, magnificent mountain. And then one day she gets picked up by a dog and is carried off in the dog's mouth, and she has to come to terms with the fact that she's actually just a pebble. And we've got Avocado Asks by Momoko Abe, and this is about an avocado who is also having an existential crisis actually, because they don't know if they're a fruit or a vegetable, and they feel like they need to know that. And then they come to terms with the fact that they don't need to know that, and they don't need to categorize themselves, and it's okay to just exist and be yourself. So a lovely metaphorical message that can be applied to lots of different things. Dragon Post, I would say, is like kind of the modern version of, oh my goodness, what was it called? The Jolly Postman. That was it. I used to love that when I was younger. Anyway, this has actual letters in it, and I have no idea how much it costs them to produce it. It's ridiculous. This is by Emma Yarlett, and it is about a boy who suddenly finds that he has a dragon, and it set fire to things, so he wrote to the fire brigade to ask for help. And the letters, like, they're in here, and you open them, and then you can read them. Again, not doing a great job of showing you, but yeah, actual letters. This is a very tactile book for slightly older children, and I think is a lot of fun. I would say it's really good for reluctant readers actually, because it's so interactive. Home by Carson Ellis. This is one that is just very beautiful. Carson Ellis illustrated the Wildwood series, and I also have a board game that she designed because it's beautiful. And it's just a list of different types of homes. Home is a house in the country. Home is a flat. Some homes are boats. Some are palaces. Yeah, just different homes around the world. I think it's very cozy, very wholesome. Then we've got some books on feelings. First up, we have The Underwater Fancy Dress Parade by Davina Bell with illustrations by Alison Colpoys. This is about a young boy called Alfie who's been invited to a fancy dress party. And he does want to go, but he's also just really anxious about it, and he keeps on having dreams where he worries. It's not even about the party, the dreams themselves, but he just has this social anxiety and he doesn't know how to overcome it. And in the end, he doesn't actually go to the party, but by the end of the story, he talks about what he's going to do next time he's invited and how he'll feel comfortable going another time. So it's not about overcoming your fears to please other people right this second. It's about acknowledging those feelings and that being okay, and then tackling them when you're ready to do so. And I think that's a really lovely message. The colour palette in here is beautiful. We've got fluorescent oranges and then these deep dark blues. Beautiful. This is a book that I bought myself the other day and I love it. It's called The Grand Hotel of Feelings by Lydia Brankovic, and it's about a woman who runs a hotel for feelings, and she talks about how you have to care for and look after each feeling that comes to stay. Sadness you have to listen to closely because they speak in a very quiet voice, and if you don't listen to what they're saying then they will stay for a very long time. Here is sadness in the bathtub. Anger you have to house in one of the biggest rooms in the hotel, because if you try and cram anger into a tiny room then they will become destructive and bad things will happen. Then once you have taken care of emotions that might be exhausting and tiring and sad and they leave, then peace comes to stay for a while. It's just super, super lovely. Clearly inspired by the Grand Budapest Hotel, and then again quite Studio Ghibli-esque, maybe a little bit like Inside Out, I don't know. But it's just so nice. Really, really enjoyed that one. Made my heart happy. And we've got this, What Feelings Do When No One's Looking by Tina Ozowicz and Alexandra Zajac. And this, again, is just extremely wholesome. It says, calm pets a dog. That's what calm does when no one is looking. Happiness zips through the air in a soap bubble. We have got shame, digging holes and burrowing inside them like a mole. It's a really good one, I think, to encourage conversation about feelings with little ones. Jitters sit in a rusty can in a dark corner under a wardrobe. That's where they have their favourite hiding place. Without a door or windows, they look out at the world through a tiny sliver under the lid. Yeah, a great one for encouraging chats. Then we've got Helen Doherty and Brazilla Magro's All the Things We Carry. And this is about carrying things around, from physical things like a picture you painted yourself to things like hope and fear and grief, and how we can help each other carry things so that we don't have to hold all the weight ourselves. Again, good for the soul. And then in the feelings category, we also have The Little Girl Who Was Afraid of Everything by Aurora Cacciapiotti. And this is about a girl who's afraid of everything. And this would be good for someone who is feeling extremely anxious and is always thinking, but what if this bad thing happens? This is to help balance all of those negative feelings out. Okay. Moving on to other ones, I wanted to mention Coralie Bickford-Smith. She does the illustrations and all the covers for the Penguin Classics series, the clothbound series and the English Library editions, and she also makes her own books. This one is called The Fox and the Star, which is the first one. Beautiful prints inside, and it's about a fox who is searching for a star that he has seen in the sky. And I mean, the colour palettes are just absolutely breathtaking. Let me find you another one, because you can't have too much of this book, I think. There we go. Absolutely gorgeous. Then there are a few others in the series. These ones are my favourite. We've got The Song of the Tree. This one is about the seasons. Again, such beautiful colours. We have those birds, and then we have the trees, so this amazing green, and an autumnal one is The Squirrel and the Lost Treasure, which is about a squirrel who buries a nut in the wood and then struggles to find it, and then the seasons change and it realizes that maybe the seed that she has lost has grown into a tree, and perhaps that is okay. A couple of fun ones. We've got Interstellar Cinderella by Deborah Underwood, illustrated by Meg Hunt. This is a fairy tale retelling. There are so many of those knocking around, but this one is quite fun. It is about Cinderella set in space. Cinderella is a space mechanic, and instead of leaving her slipper behind when she sneaks into the ball, she leaves behind her wrench, and the prince finds her and gives her her wrench back because she created a machine to travel to this space party. And he says, I would love to marry you because you clearly are a genius and can invent lots of things. And she says that that would be not something that she's up for, thank you very much. But if he would like to hire her as a space mechanic, she would really love a job. So yes, I quite like that one. I often take that one into schools when I am teaching fairy tales to young kids. This is a wickedly funny book. I know this has some negative reviews because it's quite dark. I love how dark this is. This is by Susanna Lloyd and illustrated by Ellie Snowden, and it's called The Terribly Friendly Fox, and it's about a fox who gate crashes a party hosted by this fabulous mouse here, and there are lots of rabbits at this party, and the fox says he is reformed and is a vegetarian now, and can he please just come in and enjoy the games? And everyone is thrilled to have him there. Gerald the fox, Gerald, how lovely. And everyone thinks he's just participating in all the party games, but gradually you notice that there are fewer and fewer guests at this party, and Gerald does seem to be getting quite a large tummy. And could there be something sinister going on? And the answer is yes, there definitely could be. It's quite Roald Dahl, that one. Love it. The Journey by Francesca Sana is a beautiful picture book about a family who have to flee their country due to war, and it's about what it's like to become a refugee and to travel far away from the places you know. Tara Books in India are a publishing press I would just recommend looking at the website of. I will link them in the description box down below. I have a couple of their books. Some of them are hand printed and some of them are mass produced. This is one of their hand printed ones, and all of the books, or at least most of the books they do, are folklore inspired. And this one says Sun and Moon Folk Tales by various artists, and I hope that you can see how gorgeous this is. It has a cutout on the front, and then inside you have prints. Let me find you one that I can hold up to the camera like this. They're really, really beautiful, and I think a really fabulous business to support. Again, it will be linked in the description box down below. I really love Julia Sada's illustrations, so I have a couple of her books. Some that she has written, one that she has written herself, and then two that are written by other people that she has illustrated. So this one is The Lists. This one is by Kaya McClear, and this is about a family called The Lists who make lots of lists. There's something quite Addams Family about this, I'm not sure, but let me show you the illustrations, because it's the illustrations of these that I love so much. There we go. Mama made lists of ghastly illnesses and the greatest football players of all time. Papa made lists of dreaded chores and small winged insects. Then someone comes and knocks at the door, and that person wasn't on their to-do list for the day, and they don't really know what to do about that. Lena and the Lord of the Toadstools is by Miriam Daman and Nicholas Diggard, illustrated by Julia Sada, and this is a fairy tale about Lena who goes into the woods and is captured and finds out that she is in a castle with lots of other captured creatures as well. And then the one that Julia Sada has written herself is called The Queen in the Cave. This one, again, feels quite Maurice Sendak inspired and also quite Alice in Wonderland-y. So this is about siblings who are playing imaginary games or imagination games in the garden, and then one of the sisters goes even further, and the younger ones don't know what to do about that because they don't really feel like they're old enough to follow. How the Stars Came to Be by Poonam Mystery is one of the most beautiful books I own. Look at the illustrations in here. This again is folklore inspired, a set of origin tales about the stars and how they came to exist. I do like the writing in this book, but I mean, it's the illustrations really that shine the most. Oh, I've just found another book from Tara books. This one doesn't really have any text, it's just a series of illustrations, and this one we have shown to our daughter and she was mesmerised by it, as you can probably tell by the colour inside. So it's just lots of different artists' interpretations of animals. So we've got a tiger, and then we have another tiger, and then another tiger. It's just very colourful and beautiful. I would like some of these prints on the wall, to be honest. I've mentioned these books previously on this channel. These are books by James and Lucy Catchpole. So this is the first one in a loose trilogy. So we have What Happened to You by James Catchpole, illustrated by Karen George. This is about a boy called Joe who happens to have one leg, is just playing at the playground, and is very sick and tired of everyone asking, what happened to you? Because he doesn't want to answer that. He's too busy playing pirates, you know? And then we also have You're So Amazing, which is the follow-on, which is Joe getting fed up of people telling him that he's so amazing simply for existing as a disabled person. And then Lucy Catchpole wrote this book, which is called Mamacar, also illustrated by Karen George. And this is about the power and the coziness of her wheelchair, and it celebrates mobility aids and accessibility, and I just think is the loveliest. It was disability cottagecore was the phrase I was looking for last time I mentioned this book, and had completely forgotten, like the words had just escaped my brain. So this is not about wheelchairs being, you know, fun and racy and speedy and can get you places quickly and are very exciting, though that they may be those things for other people. This is about a wheelchair being the safe space for a child, as well as obviously being a very practical device to use to help you get around. But yes, about how this young girl feels very safe when she is in the mama car, in her mum's wheelchair, with her mum. The mama car has many things, but the best thing is that it has mummy. Lovely, lovely, lovely. This is a book that I was sceptical about at first. You may be able to guess why from the title. This is Dr. Range's book, A Superpower Like Mine, illustrated by Liam Darcy. And it kind of seems a little bit like I Can Do Anything, giving me the ick, but it is not like that. This is just a book that celebrates everybody and how amazing everybody can be at different stuff. And it has great disability representation inside it as well. And I love it. So yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to that one. And then we have Helene Druvert's Paris Up, Up and Away, which is about the Eiffel Tower dreaming about flying away and seeing the sights of Paris, which it can't do because it has to stay on one spot. Now this is going to be extra difficult to show you, but it has all these amazing cutouts. Can you see? Look at that. I again have no idea how much it costs to produce this book, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Another one here. I think there are quite a few in this series. I think there may be a Mary Poppins one as well. But yeah, very, very delicate, this one. So I would say this one probably is for older children. And we have The Roller Coaster Ride by David Broadbent. This is about a young boy who's excited to go out for the day with his grandma. He wants to go on this roller coaster, but when he gets to the roller coaster park, the roller coaster is closed. So it's about disappointment, but having a good day anyway. And it also has great upper limb difference, incidental representation. Joy to the World, Christmas Around the Globe by Kate De Palma and Sophie Fatus is about Christmas and different cultures around the world and how different people celebrate. So for instance, we've got Simbam Gabi, which is a celebration in the Philippines around Christmas. This is Christmas in Canada. We've got Christmas in Mexico, Christmas in Egypt. It says, when Christmas Eve comes and the fasting time ends, we eat zesty fatar with family and friends. We've got winter in Iceland, with the Christmas book flood, you know, where everyone buys a book on Christmas Eve, which is a tradition that I think is particularly fabulous. Likewise, Little Glow by Kate Sahota and illustrated by Harry Woodgate is a book about a candle called Little Glow who is looking at different festivals that they can help celebrate when they are lit, like Diwali and Chinese New Year and Halloween. This is what the inside looks like. Nabil Steals a Penguin by Nishani Reid and Janissa Vianda is a really fun book about a young boy who goes to a zoo and steals a penguin and takes him home. and he admits to his parents that he's stolen a penguin, but they don't believe him. Then we've got Fiona Lamber's Grandad's Gift, which is about finding magic in the city after moving from the countryside and feeling quite sad about it. And again, this is a book, I think, that opens a lot of different discussion about emotions and wider topics about loss and grieving. The Homesick Fox by David Greaves, illustrated by Danielle Callahan, was a book that was gifted to me by my friend Jean. It's about a fox who would like to escape the city and get back to nature, I guess a bit like Grandpa's Gift. And again, it is illustrated beautifully. Let me find you one of the spreads in here. There we go, there's the first one. He is homesick for nature. Can Bears Ski by Raymond Antrobus and Polly Dunbar is about a bear who thinks that people are asking him, can bears ski? But really they're saying, can you hear me? So this is a book about deafness, about hearing loss, about getting hearing aids for the first time. And this is both illustrated and written from an Own Voices perspective, which is quite a rarity to have a duo like that. Then we have The Girl Who Loves Bugs by Lily Murray and Jenny Lovely. I really enjoy this one. This has incidental representation of hearing aids as well. Also same-sex parents, and it's about a girl called Evie who loves bugs and brings them into her house, and then she discovers that maybe that may not be the best idea ever. How to Make Friends with a Ghost by Rebecca Green is an absolutely adorable book with instructions on how to make friends with a ghost. Out of all of these books, this one is probably one that is extra good for adults as well. Just a list of instructions, you know, things that you could cook for them, or things that you might like to do when you're playing with them, stories they might like to hear at night. Brilliant for this time of year. It's just so good. Then I wanted to recommend, finally, a couple of silent picture books. So silent picture books have no words at all. And this may sound a little strange because, you know, you may think that picture books on the whole are about storytelling and are about kids learning how to read. And that is true, but also they are about expanding imaginations and also not making reading be a bit of a chore. If you've got a child, for instance, who is struggling to read, then I think silent picture books may be a good companion to books that have words, because it allows them to feel no pressure when it comes to exploring books. So they just have pictures, and then you get to narrate the story that you think is happening, and you get to say a new story every time. And I just think it's a very fun way to do imaginative play. So firstly, we have The Midnight Fair. This is about a fairground that gets taken over by animals when people leave at the end of the day, and they play on all of the games. Then we've got Pool by Ji-Hun Lee. This is about diving into a normal everyday swimming pool and imagining that if you go beneath all the people who are in the pool and go down far, 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 you might come across fish and other things. I think it's a really fun way to explore the silence of water. You know that feeling when you jump and water is just all surrounding you and just the world kind of disappears? And then we have Prudence and Her Amazing Adventure. This is by Charlotte Gustow, and this is about a young girl called Prudence who doesn't really want to get her shoes on and get ready to go and follow instructions from her parents, because she has much more interesting things to do, such as go flying and go into a forest, go into the sea and explore with all the fishes, and then explore the night sky too. I just think it's so beautiful and fun, and all these cutouts are really stunning as well. And again, it opens up conversations and allows you to speak to a child, or even have a conversation with yourself. Also great writing prompts, I think, this. That might be something that appeals to you if you happen to be a creative person. So I think those are all the books that I wanted to talk to you about. I hope that I've managed to showcase them well enough. It's really hard to hold up huge books and also speak to you about them at the same time, but you can always Google the titles and find some images online of what they look like on the inside. I'm now going to go try and put all these back on my shelves and also put some back in in her room. And that's all. Thank you so much to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video. Check them out. They are linked in the description box down below. Also, if you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video and you would like to subscribe, that would be very kind. And if you like my content and you would like to consider supporting me on Patreon, that would be lovely. Patreon is a place where you can throw $1 into the tip jar of creators whose work you really enjoy, and the support that I receive over there allows me to keep creating free content for you on here. And there are a few extra things over there like a book club and some behind the scenes snippets, writing chats and all of that. And also in December there will be daily Vlogmas from the 1st to the 24th of December. Not daily life vlogging, but I am going to be uploading a video every day over there, and you can have access to that for $2 for the entire month. Not per video, for the entire month. And yeah, if you would like to sign up for that, that would be lovely. If it's not of interest, don't you worry about it. And I will see you on here for another video very, very soon. And I'm sending lots of love.